Hi, I'm Brandon Gentle, and this is Gentle Earth Boat Works, where I'm building a 21.5-foot sailboat, a gaff-rigged boat called the Penguin, designed by John Welsford, in the shed in my backyard. On this episode, I'm going to be working on the centerboard case and getting it in the boat. So let's get started. Well, the framing members for the centerboard case have been cut, and I decided to use tenon joints to put them together. So here I'm just cutting out the tenon on the table saw. Well, on a project this size, you're eventually going to mess something up. I screwed up on the curved portion for the centerboard case. So when I laminated it up and planed it down, tried to square it up, I did it on my planer, and it ended up more like a parallelogram than a rectangle. So I trued it up on the table saw. After I did that, that was about a 1/4 inch too narrow. So to fix it, I decided I was going to take some 20mm stock I had, some scraps, and traced out the curve on there, cut it out with my bandsaw, glued it up, and then trimmed it up with flush cut bit. Got the top piece done. The bottom piece is glued on, just have to trim it up now. So I think I was able to salvage it. I'll come back with some screws, every 300mm or so, and hopefully that'll take care of it. So I don't think most people will know, except whoever's watching this, whenever you see the boat, but it's fixed now. The plans called for number 10 screws at 200mm intervals. So I laid out the screw locations and drilled and countersank each one. I clamped the frame member to the case side and then went and match drilled through the holes that I'd already drilled and countersunk. So that way everything will line up whenever I go to put it together. I masked off my edges in preparation for the glue up so that way I could have a clean fillet. Found if you mask it off and make your fillet and then carefully remove your tape, it's much easier to clean up. So then I went back and roughed up the edge of these panels that had previously been epoxied and has a sheet of 6-ounce fiberglass cloth on it. Just roughed them up with some 80 grit in preparation for the glue up. Next, I just wet out the surface with some laminating epoxy before I put thick epoxy on and clamped it down. Well, I laid down some thickened epoxy and set the frame member in place, and then went back and screwed it together. Then after I made the fillet on the inside, I just went back and removed the tape and left a nice clean line. Well, I just wanted to make sure the centerboard fit in the case okay, and she does. So the next step is going to be to cut a really big hole in the bottom of the boat, which I am a little nervous about, but it's got to be done. the next step is cutting out the centerboard case logs that go on the bottom of the centerboard case on each side. I just set my stock down in the hole that I cut and just drew that curve and cut it to that curve. And once I had it rough cut, I took a sander and sanded it down smooth, and then put a 1/4 inch round over on the outside edge. Here I'm gluing on some 6mm thick cheek blocks at the forward end of the case logs where the bronze bushing is going to run through that the centerboard is going to ride on. I had already milled my bronze bushing, and I milled it to the exact width of the keelson board. So I just added the 6mm cheek blocks on each end just to make those come out flush with the edge of the keelson board. I had to take the case logs to my father-in-law's to use his drill press to drill the hole for the shaft bearing, because I don't have a drill press, he does. So after that process was done, I brought the parts back over and laid out the curve on the bottom of the centerboard case and got that trimmed. Next, I added a piece of 6-ounce 4-inch fiberglass tape on the inside of the centerboard case frame right there. The centerboard itself is going to be riding up against the front edge of that frame, so I just want a little extra protection in that area. Then I coated the inside of the case with 2 coats of epoxy that had graphite mixed in. That make a nice slick surface for the centerboard as it slides back and forth inside the case. Next, I had to make holes for 2 access panels for deck plates so you can get to all the block and tackle that hoists the centerboard back up into the centerboard case. So that's what I'm working on here. So after the access holes were done, it was just time to do the final glue up and assembly with the last panel. Alright, now I just got to get it in the boat. Well, I'm not gonna lie. That centerboard case took me a lot longer than I thought it was going to. But I got it done. There's just a lot of little parts and pieces and lots of little details that you have to take care of on that part. But now that that's out of the way, we'll be on to the next thing. Probably be installing some more bulkheads and see where we get next time. So, as always, like, subscribe, and share. And thanks for watching.